Yeah.
Sure, everyone's awake.
Paul? Counselor Moore?
Yeah.
Counselor Robichaud?
Yeah.
Counselor King? She is
Councilor
absent.
Kane is excused.
I'll make a motion to accept her excuse.
I'll second.
And we need roll call, correct? Counselor Moore?
Aye.
Counselor Robichaud?
Yes.
Counselor King is absent. Counselor Fellows?
Yes.
Counselor Keller?
Yes.
Counselor Robichaud?
Yes.
Counselor Lund?
Yes.
6-0, order passed. Next item, good news and recognition.
Oh, I have one. I thought that was just the old agenda, I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do have a public hearing.
So I just have one quick one. So last night, Mark Stevens was awarded with the William V. Haskell Distinguished Professional of the Year Award. This award is the highest award a Maine Parks and Rec director can attain in the state of Maine. The conference was held at Samoset in Rockland, Maine. Mark had no idea he was being nominated for the award. His entire family came, and stay tuned for the Sun Journal article about it that he was interviewed for today. So congrats, Mark.
Congratulations.
Rob. Any other? Being done, next item,
Public hearings, victualers license for Elite Nutrition.
for that public hearing. Anybody wish to speak to the license for Elite Nutrition? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. Next item.
Audience participation and response for agenda items. At this time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach a lectern to address items or issues that are on the agenda. Please use a microphone and state your name for the record.
Anybody in the audience, have anything to say? Seeing none. Next item.
Consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered routine and will be considered for adoption by one motion with no separate discussion unless a counselor requests an item be removed. Any counselor wishing to remove an item may do so now. Seeing none, order 2023-47 to approve the municipal accounts payable warrants for $285,842.07. Municipal payroll warrants for $218,720.78. School accounts payable warrants, $100,152. School payroll warrants, $748,487.95. Minutes of March 7th, 2023. Approved road name request for Martinez Lane off King Road and victualers license for Elite Nutrition.
Make a motion to accept as written or spoken.
I'll second.
All right, roll call. Counselor Moore,
Aye.
Counselor Robichaud,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows.
Yes.
Yes.
How many we got?
Well, the real Counselor Fellows, at least. Counselor Keller.
Yes.
Counselor
All
Robichaud.
right.
Yes.
Counselor 6 yeas, 0 nays, order pass 6-0.
Next item.
Council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Per Lisbon Ordinance Section 74201E7C abstentions, Where a councillor intends to abstain from participation in voting on a particular item, they shall advise the other councillors present as soon as that item is placed on the floor of intent not to participate and to abstain from voting and the reasons that the abstention is required. Order 2023-48, Amendment to Appendix C, Fee Schedule, Parks and Recreation.
Wasn't Mark just here?
Both of that here?
Yep. I'll make a motion for discussion.
Second.
I think Mark's actually looking to actually increase the revenues here, so maybe you can actually tell us about the detail.
At a detour, I was talking to my son who was, last time he was in my old office, he was choking on a Starburst, and he was, fire chief saved him from my choking.
Really?
Brought back his memory. He's 4 years old.
Oh, my God.
That's how long I've been on. Well, thank you. Hopefully everybody has a copy of, the proposal for a few changes. And, for this upcoming year. And during the budget, meeting we had on Saturday, I talked a little bit about expenses and how revenues are matching in some of our programs. And I talked about markets and how we were under market in a lot of our programs. So I'd like to start off by proposing that for our summer day camps, our resident fees go from $475 to $550. We have about 220 kids in our summer day camps, just residents. For non-residents, I'm proposing that we increase our non-resident fees from $550 to $750. We have about 60 non-residents in our summer day camps. I know that sounds like a substantial amount for the non-resident fee, but it's still considerably under market for what other towns charge. And we're also proposing a sibling discount from $25 to $50, so there'll be a little bit more of a discount. Summer sport camps, 30 to 35, non-resident 45 to 50. Before and after school, we're proposing that we do a daily fee from $4 to $5 per day, and weekly fee from $15 to $18. We have about 30 kids in our before school program. It runs from 7 to 7:45 every morning before school at Lisbon Community School. Our after school program, we're proposing that our daily fee goes from $12 to $15, and our weekly fee goes from $50 to $65. So we have about 100 kids registered, but on a daily basis, we usually have around 65 kids. I'll go quickly through the football program. 7th and 8th grade football, 85 to 90 for residents, and non-residents 90 to 95. 5th and 6th grade, 75 to 80, non-residents 80 to 85. Daily program, 3rd and 4th grade, 70 to 75, and non-residents 80 to 85. Flag football from 35 to 40, and non-residents from 50 to 55. Soccer, 35 to 40 for residents, non-residents 50 to 55. Winter basketball, 35 to 40, non-residents 50 to 55. And the MTM rentals, and what I'd like to talk about is these are for profit, nonprofit, commercial, non-commercial. But for non-profit rental room fees, currently we're charging $10 an hour. If I can do that, $20 an hour. For nonprofit room rental fees from $30 to $40 an hour. For the gymnasium and pavilion rental fees, we're asking that we go from $30 to $40. And nonprofit, and for profit, we're asking to go from $60 to $75 for pavilion and gym fees. And we also add on to a kitchen rental fee. When people need our kitchen, they need either a stove, refrigerator, whatever to make dinners. We do a one-time fee of $50 in the past, but we'd like to increase that to $100. One thing that we need to do at some point is to add Graziano Square to our parks ordinance. I'm not sure if that's happened yet, but we do have Graziano Square on our rental form with the MTM Pavilion and ball field at Pine Woods and Beaver Park. I think we would make that efficient so far. But we're asking that we include Graziano's square rental fees for the same price as the other park rentals. And that's all I have. Anybody have any questions? Any comments?
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question? What, of Mark, what percentage of your attendees to these things is non-resident? I'm sure it varies, but, and where are they coming from primarily?
So let me talk about the summer day camps. We have, last year, we had 220 residents participate. We had 60 non-residents. I can't do the percentage right in my head. But it's about 20%, I'm guessing, 15 or 20%. And where are they coming from? They're coming from Bodenham, Lewiston, Auburn, Greene, Serratus, Durham, Topsom.
I would imagine primarily because of where parents are employed or something like that.
And quality of program.
Yeah, yes. You get credit for that.
I think that's what I think. I mean, that's why I think people are willing to travel that far. I mean, it is less expensive. You know, they get a free lunch. The trips on Fridays and Wednesdays are good draw as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Chair, rough dollar figures, what this will actually increase in your revenues? You calculate that at all yet, or have a rough idea?
Originally, we were looking at, I mean, just our summer day camps, we're looking at a $14,000 increase, which would cover our rate changes that we're asking for. And overall, it would be over $50,000. I don't know if the participation levels would make a big difference on the revenue stream, but we're looking at least $50,000 increase.
Now, part of this is actually to increase what's actually paid out for the services, right, as far as for employees. I mean, that
Right,
kind
so
of,
that's what I meant by rate changes
Yeah.
for salaries for our minimum wage.
you know, and then that's something you actually have worked out with the management, and actually, so for us to approve this night would allow you to actually update that to try to retain and keep some retention for staff.
It would be a justification to increase. And when I was talking to you Saturday, I did say that these are our salary rates. These are temporary and seasonal versus regular and long-term employees. Like I said, there's an asterisk with the seasonal and temporary because we're talking about revenues on season. So that's what I meant by that.
And do you think this will actually be sufficient enough to actually get people to come back, to keep some seasoned people, or you think we still need to go further? Because it sounds like you're actually going over and beyond what you needed to for revenues to actually make that happen.
I think we're gonna have to go even higher, and here's why. I went to a conference yesterday at the Samoset, and one of the sessions I attended was retention employees, and a lot of camps have creative ways of trying to retain employees. They have tier system. Our employees different than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. The employee has a little bit more power because they can want for more money. So what they're doing is they're offering like a tiered program so that they're offering part-time employment, 20 hours a week instead of 40 hours a week for high school students. They have counselors and training programs that motivate kids to start as a volunteer at 14 and 15 so they can get experience, so they can be their potential employee when they get of age. And they also offer things like jackets, and t-shirts, and hats if you come back a second year. I don't know how that would work in England, but I mean, I'm willing to try anything. I think the rate of pay is probably the most obvious encouragement for sustainability, for keeping retainability, I should say.
And you said the initial rate increase was about 15,000, 14 to 15,000. That was the bare minimum, basically. That's just the idea of keeping people above what the entry people are, pretty much, right?
That's that $14,000 number was what we were receiving for non-resident
Increase.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely in support of that racing because we are definitely, we're gathering people from outside the community to come in for our program so that we actually have a good quality program, and probably because the price is reasonable, right? So, I mean, I just hope that we can actually use, if not the high tier, but most of this to actually offset some of the costs that we would have to actually properly pay people for retention. Whatever we need to do to actually keep good people coming back, because our programs only stay good if we have good people.
It would be very beneficial to us is if we could have funding for our seasonal people so that we have more than what we need. So that if we have some opportunity, we have someone that comes in that's skilled and they might be first year for us, but they might be, 1 year in college, that we could offer them a 50 cent or $1 more an hour raise with that experience. That would be ideal.
I think that's something you to work out with Glenn and the management team. And like I say, I'm all for it. If we can actually collect the money, it's all about, we can collect it, we can pay it, right? So if we can bring it in more, we can pay more.
They do a good job with their programs.
Our after school
They can
program,
use it
our after,
to offset that cost.
our after school program, if it was a business, we operate as a business and we certainly could, but we have about $130,000 in revenues that we bring in every year for that after school program. It's 39 weeks. And we spend about 35 in salaries. We get another $5,000 in supply, but $40,000 and we're bringing in 120, 130. That does well as far as the business standpoint. Summer day camps, we strive to break even because the trip costs are so expensive. Like I was saying Saturday, one trip to Funtown is $7,000 or $8,000. With that many kids. So we're striving to break even on most of all of our programs.
Well, I guess the good news is you didn't use your bandwidth all at once, right? So as next year and the year after, you still have more room, more.
So over the years, this is kind of like over the years, the council has never really come to me and said, hey, you really need to increase revenues.
Right.
And because of that, I haven't done it.
Right.
Every now and then, there'd be a year where the council says, I think we need to focus on revenues, and we have, and we increased incrementally. So over time, we find ourselves at a very appealing program for people love it. That's why they're coming from all over to come to us, and because of the quality program. But we can increase, and I think we're at a healthy. We're talking $200 in just non-resident. That's a good increase, but I still think we're gonna have to turn people away by having too many people registered.
Well, that's a good thing to have, right? Well,
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
On the Saturday there, we talked about the scholarships, and I just want to make sure that we are not turning away people that can't afford it, if your parents can't afford it, and there's some big price increases. Are we going to go forward with some kind of a program to make sure that there's something for people whose parents are struggling financially?
Yeah, so right now we have, I think Kayla had mentioned, we have like $500 in an account with the additional income or money that we had budgeted for $2,500. It gives us around $3,000 estimated. I'm thinking we're going to blow through that pretty quick.
Yeah.
And if we do, in the past, I've always had a little bit of lateral to certain circumstances. For example, school department called me and said they have 2 homeless families at Kenny Bento. What I do is I'll work them into our after school program, before school program. We don't charge them. And sometimes the school will help us out with some funding because they get grants, things like that for that. Sometimes they don't. And we just eat the cost.
Mhm.
There's no real expense for that.
Right.
I have extra kids. But I think that as long as I can have that, that lateral movement to allow, internal scholarships if there's certain circumstances where kids can't afford it, there's family that's burned down over fire and they need to be in our programs to allow that kind of thing to happen.
You have the staff in place that can absorb a few extra. To your point, doesn't cost anything. They're already there.
They're already there.
So
Right.
it's good.
Exactly.
Anything else?
Good job, Mark.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Next item.
Do a vote? Or is that something you
Oh,
vote on?
yeah, I guess that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I was so engrossed in your presentation. I just didn't eat.
Great. So we have a first and Ray was a second.
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, Council Moore,
Aye.
Council Robichaud,
Aye.
Council Fellows,
Yes.
Council Keller. Yes. Council Larry Show,
Yes.
Council Lunch.
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, 6-0, order passed.
Did I answer the right time that time?
Yes.
Good.
Item,
Order 2023-49, council work and rules, policy update.
Mr. Chair, do you want to move this article after the water department to let them have their say first? Up to the council, I just wonder.
I don't see any reason why we should.
Okay,
Is there a motion?
Make a motion for discussion?
I'll second.
is it my discussion? Mr. Chair?
There's a motion, right? Oh, we're going to discuss.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second for discussion. Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll, it's my amendment, so I'll start it off. But this amendment is to amend the attendance section of the working rules for the town council. I'll read the attendance article with the proposed amendment included. Attendance under section 74-201, working rules for the town council. Attendance by councilors in person is expected. Failure to attend 3 consecutive meetings of the council without being excused by a vote of the council will result in forfeiture of office. Acceptable excuses include, without limitation, illness, vacation, and family emergencies. Only 2 consecutive absences from regularly scheduled council meetings will be excusable for reason of vacation, even if the council member is able to attend by remote means. A limit of 7 excused absences over a 1-year period, 1-year session shall trigger council review. So I'm proposing this amendment to the council working rules regarding attendance by council members. It is my position that there is an expectation through the votes of the citizens that we be present to fulfill our responsibilities and to be there eye to eye to meet our citizens as necessary. I personally have not gone on vacation or other event on occasion because of a conflict with a scheduled council meeting. And I know this is true with other councilors as well. Many smaller local government agencies restrict absences because of the benefit of direct communication with the public. In the peer-reviewed journal, Local Government Studies, an article titled Municipality Size, Political Efficacy and Political Participation, a Systematic Review, authored by James McDonald, April 2019, he concluded in his executive summary that citizens of smaller municipalities feel a greater sense of political efficacy and participate to a greater degree in local politics if they can interact directly with local government officials. Our own policies seem to reflect the import of being present. This is reflected in the following policy governing attendance. In section 74-200, attendance policy for boards and committees of the town. There is hereby adopted by the town council a standardized attendance policy for members of the boards and committees of the town. Regular attendance at meetings is required. 2 unexcused absences in a row, or 3 or more in a year, shall be considered cause for the board or committee to report the absence to the town council, who shall notify the member to attend the town council meeting to show cause why the member should not be removed by the board. Common sense dictates that regular attendance at meetings is required, means in person, not remote. I strongly believe that persons who identify as what we colloquially call snowbirds and are out of town and even out of state for several months at a time should make the choice of being the aforementioned snowbird or town councilor, not both. My amendment was drafted by our legal department and it has been determined to be sound legally. The remote policy does not include vacation in the condition to use remote meeting access, but somehow it appears in the working rules. So that seemed to be the logical place to address the issue of long-term absence. Inexplicably, the word vacation came under some scrutiny. So I'll provide a definition from the Oxford Languages. Vacation, an extended period of leisure and recreation, especially one spent away from home or in traveling. This amendment addresses the importance of being present not electronically, but in person. A voter who asks you who they voted for to come and look at a pothole or a property issue, or just want to sit and express their concerns in person, are robbed of that interaction because of a policy that allows for long-term absence. This amendment resolves that, and it ought to pass.
Mr. Chair,
Don,
does everyone in the counselors have a copy of A, the remote meeting policy, and B, what I wrote?
I have no idea.
I asked the staff to do that. Did that
That was-
happen?
That was circulated yesterday, correct, Al?
Yes, I did email every counselor, and I was hoping that there were copies there. I don't know if you read it.
I can print
Yes.
it right now.
They all have it, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you think I am trying to be oppositional or that I disagree totally with what you're saying. I don't. But this item seems obviously aimed at a person who is in a situation like mine, and I would like to read what I wrote because the citizenry of the town has not heard it. And it was circulated for information purposes with the entire council. That is meeting in a situation like mine, where I'm meeting remotely for an extended period of time. I'm a little confused though, and I would like to explain why the change will not apply to members who are remote meeting attendees. I understand we had a lawyer document this, but the lawyer wasn't able to see our remote meeting policy. I have been meeting like this for what seems like a long time now, and I think it was Fern who said, we'll see how it works for 4 months. I wrote the original and modified remote meeting policies along with some legal help. So I feel that I have some degree of knowledge, and if not responsibility, to help address whatever problems there are. I spoke with Harry last Friday. We don't agree on this matter, and I will say to you essentially what I said to him. I have written my thoughts down so I would make sure I said what was intended, as Harry did, and please bear with me. And here, don't get my purpose here wrong. I do agree. While I have not missed any town council meeting, I have been attending remotely. I have not been absent. Most of the meetings have been difficult with poor audio, and the video that's only adequate. Without upgrades, participation will continue to be very difficult for anyone, including the audience. That fix may be in the works with the budget things that are going on, however. Liaison work with the planning board and the water department have also been complicated as well, but I have attended. Audio participation in a workshop atmosphere like last Saturday is particularly difficult. In addition, I agree with Harry, while remote meetings for extended periods can work well for entities like business or volunteer committees, it seems less than ideal for an elected official for all of those same reasons that Harry mentioned. While I can technically accomplish many constituent duties remotely, close participation cannot happen over the longer term. Connectivity with the rest of the in-person meeting council members is also lost. But having said all of that, I think we could do a better job of changing how we are allowed to meet remotely rather than by changing the attendance policy in working rules. And here's why. You probably remember that on July 12th, everybody but Joe Jean was presently on the board. The town council voted by a 7-0 vote and it approved the modified remote meeting policy in accordance with the existing state statute 1 MRS subsection 403B. That approval was intended to be put in the town council working rules when it was codified. The codification was to be done, but as of this time, the modification appears to be an update that is not official. And it actually, if you click on it, you're going to find the LDC remote meeting policy. This current policy was properly implemented by first holding a hearing and then acting on the measure. The policy should appear in Chapter 74, Article 4, which deals with boards and committees. Subsection 201 is the council working rules, and subsection 202 says it is the town council remote meeting policy, but actually is the LDC remote meeting policy, which was never a town council vote. Something went awry. I believe it was the time of change between clerks, and it should be easily fixable. And in conversation with the clerks, I think it has been or will be. At any rate, the remote meeting policy was a legal action on the part of the town council, done properly and therefore is in effect. I think we will be doing things differently, if not wrong, by changing subsection 201, the attendance policy. And here's some more. The proposed revision conflicts with the remote meeting policy in that only 2 consecutive absences from a regular meeting would be allowed. Whether that's right or whether that's wrong, or whether we change it to that, the remote meeting policy says the long-term remote attendance defined as more than 3 consecutive meetings. That shall be discouraged. But more importantly, the proposed revision to the working rule seems to attempt to call out remote meetings for the reasons of vacation as absences, which may be excused at some level. Both the state statute and our remote meeting policy require for a person who participates remotely, attendance be considered present for the purpose of quorum and voting. Therefore, if given permission to meet remotely, there is no absence at all requiring excusals. That is also why we do not excuse me when I attend remotely. And that is the main reason why the change will not apply to those who are meeting remotely. Secondly, the proposal lacks a definition for vacation. Harry just mentioned that. He defined it. It's still not in writing. The remote meeting policy as is now written gives council chair the authority to grant remote meeting policy. And even though it is discouraged, individual circumstances of long-term remote meeting ability can be approved subject to the recommendation of the chair to the entire council in order to affirm the decision either to allow or disallow. That authority is clear, has never been changed. I realize that there have been some recent changes to the state statute, but mostly they concern liberalizing the reasons for having remote meetings in the first place, and definitely giving town council the authority to have one blanket authority for boards and committees. The following is what the statute says now. 1 MRS subsection 403B2 requirements. A public body subject to this subchapter may allow members of the body to participate in public proceedings using remote methods only under the following conditions. After notice and hearing, the body has adopted a written policy governing the conditions upon which members of the body and the public may participate in a public proceeding of that body remote methods. That's it. There's no remote meeting policy in place. There are provisions for that as well, but no urgent or emergency requirements are necessary. Bottom line to me is that we should finish the job of codifying our remote meeting policy into the ordinances and then modify, or in the reverse order, modify as necessary. Maybe the town council wants to take some pressure off the chair or itself by making the remote meeting authority a little more stringent, limited, or more direct. But that is a latter discussion. There might be some justifiable reasons for long-term remote meeting that we do not understand, and the authority given to the chair in conjunction with the council was inserted for those reasons. I don't think I meet that requirement. I would add that our own working rules, section 704-201D meetings, remote meetings, says that the working rules, among other things, may be modified in a manner consistent with the requirements of the remote meeting policy. So my purpose here, I know we have a motion on the floor. I would like to postpone action until we can again consult with our attorney. At this point, she's on vacation and the town manager can't even get hold of her for clarification on what she meant when, I assume it was her that wrote this. I'd like to revise the remote meeting policies to exclude situations like mine and to perhaps take the weight off of the town council. But I'd like to do it properly and I'd like to address it in the remote meeting policy. And that's, so I would like to move to postpone it, but we have to do something with the motions on the floor.
I would like to point out, and I'll ask Glenn to address, he did contact the town attorney regarding the verbiage in this amendment. I'll let you go ahead.
Sure. So Don, I forwarded over everything. I didn't expect to get an answer, so she didn't elaborate much. She said she'd be happy to comment on the substance of your statement when she's back, but She did add that the council rules, as far as she's concerned, would trump anything vague or contrary in the remote meeting policy. And she did review both when writing this proposed change.
Even,
so
even though the remote meeting policy is part of the working rules?
I didn't have a ton of substance. That's just the email I got back from her late last night.
She was given
Okay.
our remote policy. Yes.
Well, I personally believe attorneys have been made mistakes before. We all have our personal situation with that happening with our attorneys. So I think this is a mistake if it's not considered part of the working rules. And it was intended to be by the council.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Don, now you mentioned that you actually said doesn't that you don't believe, because again, this is all new, all this stuff is different, right? I mean,
Yep.
years ago, we never thought about remote policies, right, until COVID hit and stuff. And going into it was kind of unknown, especially when I was chair. That's why I said, hey, look, we just have to see how it works out, right? See if we even have the capability, which would prove we have some, but not a lot, right? As you would know best.
Right. Yes, I know.
And you mentioned that you feel it isn't right also, right? Or it should continue as it is. And what's your thoughts of what ought to change, I guess? I mean,
Well, I think whether it's 2 meetings or 3 meetings that are attended remotely, that's just, I don't, whatever. But I think that's reasonable. I just think that when you have a remote meeting policy, attendance is remote and you are present if it's granted. So we have that policy. So maybe we can, in the attendance section, we can say that it's attendance, but it's not, because I'm allowed to attend remotely, then I'm attending. So that's my whole point, and I agree that it should be short term. It should be, in most cases, however, I can rewrite it, or you can, or anybody can. But there might be, who knows? I've wondered, what if we had a counselor? I've had a friend who was on committees, who was in an accident, and he's been in a nursing home for 2 years. Some of you may know him, but he's on boards and committees, or was. He could logically be on that committee and meet remotely if he didn't resign. So I don't know if that's a circumstance that would work for remote meetings or not. Other than that, that's why that's in there. But I don't think it was really meant to cover me. And that wasn't my wish when I really started doing this. As you know, we had a town council that was unopposed. I told you I wanted to withdraw, but that I didn't withdraw because had I done that, you'd have had to have another election. And if I do that prior to June, you still have to have another election, or the seat goes vacant. If I retired and if I go back to Hawaii again, in the same circumstance, I would not expect to be serving on the town council. So yes, I think a month or three regular meetings or 2 regular meetings, it's just whatever. I don't really care. So I think you understand I'm not imposing everybody here. I just want to do it what I think is the right way.
Yeah, and I appreciate actually your thoughts, because it has been trying on both ends, I'm sure. You mean for us and for you electronically, and it's just one right now. We're certain that 5 people could be up on the screen, and that would be a very challenging meeting if there was actually 2 people here and 5 people on the screen, especially when we're trying to do an event and we're moving you around the screen just so people can read the screen. If you had 5 people, that would have been a juggling act for sure.
Actually, when everybody is remote, it's a lot clearer and easier to understand. Yeah, you still lose the context of the meeting, but it's a whole lot easier to understand than it is when one person is remote. And I think Harry can attest to that too.
We had to get people here to enjoy it for everybody, which is well, they probably wouldn't enjoy it very much. And we really didn't know. I mean, that was the biggest thing, right? Of how it was going to work. We all had a little bit of concerns about it, and I still think there's kind of a big unanswered question as far as remote versus whether you're present or not. And I'm no legal scholar by any means, but it's been. I mean, I know as chair, it would have been hard for me to actually in good faith, say whether someone is here or not, if they're not here, right? And by our working rules, if we can't say they're not here, then we can't actually we can't police, right? We can't actually control the idea of, someone actually could stay on council for an extended period of time, up to a year, even if the council didn't want to be there, because we couldn't actually
Well,
call them,
that's
not here. Right?
That's not
In a
quite
sense.
true because technically, and yes, I know we changed, you were the chair and then now Harry's the chair right in the time I left. So that didn't help. That was a little confusing, I'm sure. But that policy as we now have it says that the chair recommended to the town councils can say no. But we've never done that. And I don't think we've ever wanted to do that, but it could be done the way it's now written. And I would have expected and would expect people like Mark to bring it up and say, okay, next time, no go. And so that current policy covers, and it is state statute that says if you are allowed to attend remotely, you are present for quorum and voting. That's state statute, and that's where we got ours from. So you have to be allowed.
Key word there is quorum and voting.
Right,
There-
and you have to be allowed to be
So you
remotely.
can fill a quorum if you're remote, and you can vote if you're remote.
Yes,
That doesn't mean you're here, physically here.
you're not physically there. You're in attendance remotely.
I think the best place to change it might be in the remote participation policy, just make that tougher language in there that says, there's a recommendation, anything more than, 5 or 6 meetings is you're removed from council, just like, it says in this policy that you were suggesting to
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, you could do that.
The policy just say, more than 5 meetings won't be tolerated.
The idea, my understanding of the remote policy was born up by COVID. That's what this came from. And there's nothing in there that says anything about vacation. It doesn't say anything about anything other than emergency or urgent issue that requires the body to meet via remote methods, or the illness or other physical condition or temporary absence of a member from the town of Lisbon that causes significant difficulty traveling to the meeting location. That's it. That's the policy of the town.
And that is not even a requirement of the statute anymore. It doesn't have to be emergent. There's no requirement. And that was the
That's our
legislature's
policy.
doing. I know, I wrote it. I know. And I'm just saying that should be updated to go with state statute too. No matter how, whatever we make for stringent requirement is what it's going to be. But if we do have a remote meeting policy and allow some circumstances of remote meeting, then that is attendance attendance for voting and quorum. That's all I'm saying.
The more important issue that, and my concern was having a counselor that people vote for be gone for a third of the year, just gone, not here. So they can't say, can you come and look at this? I want to talk to you. I want you to look at this property line issue. I want you to, and you can't do that because you're not here. You may
No argument. I know.
be here by, well, I'm glad you agree. So the working rules trump any remote policy that we have according to the town attorney. So I think that's a good place to make this change.
And our attorney did not delineate the fact that the remote meeting policy is part of the working rules. It is not separate. It was intended to be posted there. And in fact, it's titled there. It is part of the working rules. So now you're changing the working rules, which is really, it's screwed up, quite frankly.
And you're allowed to do that. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, go right ahead.
Any other discussion?
I think the intent of any of this is the idea of just clarify or probably fine tuning the idea of what's expected of the council as far as remote working rules. I mean, so however we do that, I do appreciate Don's opinion, the idea of testing it out and realizing that it's not with the technology we have today, not as easy as it should be as far as to be remote for an extended period of time. Um, I do believe there has to be some remote opportunities, just, for short term, for 1, 2 meetings or whatever it needs to be, especially if we do run into another situation where we're just not able to meet at town office or whatever, but, how we go about that, not actually, I don't really know as far as to me, it doesn't make a difference working rules, how you go about it. We just gotta make sure we have the changes in place to make it fair for everybody, that's all.
Mr. Chair, would you consider, or would the council consider postponing this till the second meeting of next month, where we can actually have time to think about it a little bit? And I will be in person next meeting and the next 2 meetings. So maybe we can argue about it then.
I would not consider that. Any further discussion? You ready for a vote?
So what is the motion?
The motion is to accept the working rules as amended.
And you can get that copy from me then too?
You have it, so I didn't know.
Oh, in the, okay, packet. All right. So roll call. Counselor Moore,
Aye.
Counselor Robichaud,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows,
No,
Counselor Keller,
Yes.
Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes,
Counselor Lunt.
Yes.
So we have 1, 2, 3. So we have 5 yeas, 1 nay. Order passed 5-0.
Next item.
5-1, I'm sorry. Yes, dear. All right, order 2023-50, Water Department General Obligation Bond Approval. Bond Authorization Order. Whereas by referendum vote conducted on November 5th, 2019, the voters of the town of Lisbon ratified an ordinance duly passed by the town council of the town of Lisbon, which authorized the issuance of up to $6 million in general obligation bonds to the town to finance various water department projects, including but not limited to upgrading meter reading equipment, purchasing equipment, and replacing failing infrastructure, including infrastructure on and around Route 125 in the town of Lisbon, the project. And whereas the water department has determined that it is ready to conduct another 1.5 million in improvements related to the project. And whereas the water department and the town council have determined that the interest of the town will be best served by issuing the town's 1,500,000 2023 general obligation water bond, bond, through the Maine Municipal Bond Bank's General Resolution Program, Spring 2023 issuance, the bond issuance, to finance the project. Now therefore be it ordered by the town council of the town of Lisbon that the finance director and the town manager are authorized to participate in the bond issuance and to prepare and sign such forms, certificates, applications, and other documents as they deem necessary or convenient to accomplish that purpose. And further, that the issuance of the bond, subject to the terms and conditions of the bond issuance, is hereby approved.
motion for discussion?
Second?
Roll call. Do we, we're
No,
discussing.
yeah, I mean, if we could, and,
Sorry.
so really, since it's already been ratified by the voters, there's no need to go to vote, right? It's basically just an approval by council and a move forward with the bond bank. And, my biggest concern would be long-term, it has nothing to do with the water department, is that we just make sure we, in our calculations for our bond, which is going to be in a year, whereas I understand, is make sure we actually just have that earmark. So as we start looking at our numbers long-term, we do bonds, so we make sure we have that. Because this will be, what was the first bond? How much was it? And that was for the Route 9? Was that something different? That was a separate bond.
Do you want me to?
No, if you could come up and explain, yeah. The other 1.5 was for the starting of the Main Street, or,
No, first,
Could you state your name for the?
Shelley, business manager for the water department, Shelley Reynolds. The first 1.5 was a whole project of water mains to replace on smaller streets, smaller scope. Then the state decided they were gonna move forward with the 125 project.
Finally, yeah.
I know, and not enough lead time for us to get another bond, and taking into consideration not increasing the rate 1 year after we did that, and still unsure if the state would go through with it in the spring. If they didn't get back a bid that was within what
Range.
we all agreed that the cost should be, then it was going to be off the books again, and we didn't want to chase a rate, and we didn't want to take a bond and pay for it that we didn't need. So we had a list of other smaller projects that we could do ourselves in-house. So we put all of that on hold when the state came in and said, we're starting in the spring. So we stopped all spending of that first 1.5 to cover the 2022 costs of that project.
And this will actually be continuing on to the second half, or
Correct.
I guess they went 500 feet of a 8,000-foot project, so the rest of it, right?
Right.
No, it's all good. I mean, I just, as long as our accounting wise, we can count for it. I think we already went to the voters, we already approved, so I have no concerns.
On and around 125, is that the Main Street
Yeah,
project, or is that further out?
no,
Just
that's
right
the
along the-
same scope as the sewer and the stormwater.
Are there any other targets right now with that 1.5 in other areas of?
The first project list, did I send you that information on what that first 1.5 was for?
Lisa Ward gave it to me. I didn't bring it to this meeting, but we pulled up the minutes from back in 2019, so we can see the punch list. I don't recall what it was offhand.
So that's what I was asking.
So
tonight.
all of that got put on hold. So once 125 is done and that cost has been met, we're gonna go back and work on that first project.
May I ask one more question? Do you actually, for the remaining amount of the bond allowance of 6 million, do you actually have, I mean, we have endless projects, right? I mean, we can go forever and ever, but do you
Correct.
actually have kind of a capital outlay where that's gonna go
Yeah.
over the next, do you see that next couple of years, or 1 year, 3 years?
I'm
What's your
not
thoughts?
sure if
I know
you,
you crystal ball, but you know,
if you've been privy to the PFOs and PFA discussions and the lead and copper discussions, that could become part of that depending on when they approve limits. If we meet them, if we don't meet them, we need infrastructure to meet them for both of those purposes. Our plan is to take 1.5 every 3 years. Hopefully that will work. Like I said, it depends on when the state or EPA say, this is when we have to meet these criteria. And if we meet them, we can continue on to other bigger infrastructure.
and nothing breaks, you're okay.
That's not realistic.
No, I know. The other question I have is this, and we've talked about this a little bit about some of the federal money coming down and available. Is any of that grants matching at all, or is that, do you know if, I don't even know if Elizabeth's gonna be privy to any of that federal money that's gonna be available for infrastructure, but
Specifically for the SRF funds, are you speaking to that?
um,
Money that's where that's made
in general,
available in?
just what we hear about
forgiveness.
people talking about, that's all, and I wouldn't be lying to you if I told you specifics on it. But
Sure. So there's two SRF. There's a clean water, which is for wastewater, and then there's the drinking water SRF. The drinking water SRF is pretty stringent on how that money is managed throughout the project. Certain wages you have to meet, the way you do payment requisitions, it just takes on more cost, and you can't do the work in-house. It has to be sent out to a contract bid. So
as most federal grants are, even with we even see with that facade grant, you actually had to make Bacon's
Dave's making wages, yeah.
wages and everything, so it's all very, very uncontrolled.
So when you're talking about 1.5 million that you can just put to materials and say paving,
Mm.
you would then have to pull out, because our wages are already part of our budget, are already figured into that rate case. So when you have to start putting in outside wages, that just increases the rate, and you get less work put in the ground, less improvement
Yeah.
for that money.
If it was all federal money we're spending, that wouldn't be so bad, right? Because it's actually all relevant, right? But most of the time it wouldn't be. That's why I was wondering if there was actually matching numbers that needed to be with it, or if the grants were actually just
Yeah.
this whole, but
There's a lot more available for the lead and copper and for the PFO, PFAs. And more will become available when you know you need
All
to
fired
make
down.
improvements.
Yep. that's good. We're always looking to see if we can get money from away, that's all, but I do realize there's a lot of guidelines and hoops and
Yeah.
every project we go through is kind of like that. That's why staff gets kind of so burnt doing a lot of the stuff, so, but appreciate the information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Ready for a vote?
All right, roll call. Council Moore,
Aye.
Council Robichaud.
Yes.
Council Fellows,
Yes.
Council Keller.
Yes.
Council Larochelle.
Yes,
Council Lund.
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, order passed 6-0.
thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna keep doing our business if you guys wanna leave or something you want to.
I don't blame you for staying. There's a lot of interesting stuff, you know.
Next item.
Other business, municipal revenues.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Bear with me, just have a bout of allergies going on. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and I'm gonna kind of dig a little deeper into some of these proposed revenue details. We went over it as a big picture in the previous few workshops. But after tonight's discussion with Mark Stevens, our Parks and Recreation Director, I'd like to I was doing some numbers as he was talking.
I heard you doing some pretty quick going there, yeah. Working on the fly, right?
Oh, of course, always. So we're gonna start from the top.
Excuse me, Don, can I have you mute your?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So this first section is general revenues, and this is outside of real estate taxes and personal property taxes. This is what's considered our other general revenues. So we have payment in lieu of property taxes, which is with another corporation that has a reimbursement for being tax exempt. And then the next section is motor vehicle excise taxes. I'm projecting a $200,000 increase in fiscal year 24's revenues, and this is because there were peaks and drops in motor vehicle excise tax since COVID-19. We saw when the state had said there's going to be a grace period when you can register your car, that end of fiscal year 20 into the beginning of fiscal year 21 saw a huge increase in that fiscal year 21 beginning. So that's what's creating that chart of those peaks and dips. But based on a 3-year average and based on what I'm expecting the town to collect through June 30th, 2023, I'm anticipating around 1.55 million through June 30th, 2023. So based on that and based on that 3-year average, increasing that line item by 200,000. The other items such as boat excise tax, interest penalties on taxes, agent fees, those were also looked at on a projection basis for a 3-year average. And so those we're seeing some small increases, but still being in consistency with those projections. State revenue sharing, delete that because I do have the number. State revenue sharing produced the projections as of March 3rd, 2023. And for us, the state revenue sharing is coming in at $2,220,323.03. So based on last year to this year, and based on where we stand in 2023 to that projection, we're going to see a small decrease. And we had started to go over that and the initial presentation last Thursday, is we were seeing a steady increase in state revenue sharing as a result of COVID. And this is that first year, 3 years removed from COVID, that I'm seeing that plateau. And so this number is reflective of that. The other items in general revenues are urban road initiative program, veterans reimbursement, tree growth reimbursement, state road revenue, copier revenue, NSF fees. And those, again, I had looked at on 3-year averages. And for the state road revenue, that is actually that portion that we have discussed a few times recently about what parts of town that are state roads that we get reimbursed for. And based on the state calculation, we're getting $21,727 for the state roads that are DPW plows. Whether or not it can be said where there are other areas of town that we should get reimbursed for, I think that that's a solid request to be asked of the state, and that can be adjusted here. But based on where we have been being reimbursed for certain roads over the past few years, that number I don't expect to change because they're pretty consistent on that. But I would be happy to see if that discussion were to come forward of any additional areas. And we've talked about Route 125 because it's portions of Route 196, Route 9 off of Upland Road. So if you guys do have that discussion with the state, you can always increase that portion of the revenues.
The School Street also, that's also right.
The
Yeah.
state road also, yeah.
Yes,
But I think eventually it'd be worth a discussion. I mean,
definitely.
that's quite a bit of footage, and, salt, and man hours, and, so we should go, line up that conversation at least, right?
Yeah, and that's, Randy had mentioned the urban compact, and I'm not really sure I understand it yet, but the parts of 125 we do take care of, state road that we're not being reimbursed for. And I mentioned it to our representative too, so the next time we touch base, we may have that conversation. I'm not sure who at DOT to reach out to, but my understanding is we're taking care of it. We should probably be getting some reimbursement for it.
And it's confusing about the urban compact, because 196 falls within that, but yet we get reimbursed for it. So, how do you change that? But either way, I mean, it's been a long time. We're going to take care of it anyway. I mean, but at some point in time, it'd be nice if we were able to take care of it.
Definitely. The next section in general revenues relates to the water and sewer departments. Currently, as finance director, I serve as treasurer for the water and sewer respectively. And it was agreed upon some time ago that a portion from an administrative level, a portion of the town manager, finance director, and when it relates to payroll for the water department, the HR director's salaries and benefits for the sewer department. It's an 8% calculation. For the water department, it's a 5% calculation. So for admin for sewer, it's a total of $24,358, and that has that corresponding expense on the sewer fund side. And for the water, it's admin, benefits, IT, and insurance. The IT reimbursement is give or take about 10% of our IT with our third-party contract. And then the water department insurance is straight from the insurance company. They are listed separately as the water department for vehicles, general liability, crime, cyber, and all of the other insurances that the town has similar coverage for. So that gets billed out, and then they pay us back for that. Of note here, the MEMIC dividends, we had switched from MEMIC to MMA, so I took that revenue out. And with the dividend, it's always hard to tell whether you're going to get it anyways each year. We did not receive the MEMIC dividend recently, but we did get an unemployment dividend. And so that next line, because we received that in 23, I don't expect us to see it in 24. And again, with dividends, it's hard to make that type of prediction. Investment earnings, I took an average over 3 years, so I'm expecting a slight increase to investment earnings. And you'll notice insurance claim revenue. Knock on wood, we'll have to start to see that start to go back down. But this year we did see a lot of insurance claims, vehicle accidents and such. So it's there because we had received money from the insurance company, but it's one of those things that you don't typically budget. You don't expect to get into a car accident and receive insurance money from that.
We don't want to be in that habit of budgeting.
Nope.
Want to be accidents.
So it's there, so I can show you all what we've received so far, and this is as of March 1st. We have had more since then, but that's the reason why it's there. So the total general government of $4,159,865, which is an approximate 5.21% increase of $206,150. The next section is for clerk, and that's inclusive of business licensing, animal licensing, vitals, and notary fees. And again, for each of these sections, I took a look at the 3-year averages for what we've been collecting, where we are right now, where I expect us to be as of June 30th, and taking all of that in consideration, putting forward a proposed revenue budget. Based on what I'm seeing, I do expect a decrease in business licensing. And the reason for that is in the previous budget year and last year, we had included an increase for adult use marijuana licensing. And again, that was one of those unknowns. We didn't know what we were going to receive in that. And based on the dollar amount for a singular license, we had added money in because I believe Lisa, one license would be 5,000. So that's factoring an additional 2 licenses. We didn't see those types of numbers. And so just looking at that, I had decreased it and just taking an analysis of where that kind of stands right now. I didn't want to have that be inflated. So I had decreased the business license accordingly for that.
With no moratorium, I think that's a smart move because probably it's not going to happen.
Yeah, because there'd be less if, they close and prior to someone moving in, it can no longer be.
The challenge is to get more new licenses.
Yeah. And I think this is a true testament of, putting forward something and having a moratorium and hearing residents' thoughts, hearing what we have come out of the moratorium with, and a budget being a fluid document and adjusting accordingly, and seeing that we'd had the adult use in last fiscal year, but because of everything that we've gone through in this fiscal year, adjusting slightly for that proposed upcoming budget. So for clerk, I'm anticipating an $8,875 decrease. Code enforcement, as our code enforcement officer spoke to on Saturday, it's been busy. We've been seeing a lot of building permits. We've been seeing a lot of new electrical permits. In fiscal year 23, we had separated out the electrical permits. And I'm really glad that we did, so that way we can see our source of revenue for that area in particular in comparison to the construction fees. So based on where we are right now, at 6,000 collected for revenue, I'm anticipating us to reach that 9,000 marker by June 30th. And as such, I didn't have a 3-year comparison because we did it last year, but based on where I expect us to be at the end of June 30th, I had increased electrical permits by 3,000 to give us that 9,000. Overall, code enforcement increased 4,500 or 10.7%.
Yes, the electrical permits, no, that's a third party, so that's an outgoing expense. Is that one to one? I mean, are we paying out 9,000, we collect 9,000 or
No,
no?
I can have Mark.
I don't really need specifics. I wasn't sure how it was actually contracted, so I wasn't sure if it was a, you know, a one for one, we bill out, or if it's actually on a different scale.
It's on a slightly different scale, so we pay out per job, but it's not equivalent to the per permit.
Nice. All right. I was just curious because I know there's administration on the other side too that we have to account for. So
Absolutely, it's a good question. So with code enforcement and clerk, that brings general government to $4,237,115, or an increase of 5%, $201,775. Next section is for general assistance. And general assistance, the state reimburses us 70% of the budgeted expenses. So I used what we had in our expense side, and I took 70% of that. And we had increased the expense side because we're seeing the increase of need for assistance. So again, looking at the numbers so far in fiscal year 23 and looking at the historical incremental increase here for general assistance, this number is derived strictly as 70% from the expense number. The next section is police. And this had an update from your previous packet, which we talked about on Saturday, the MDEA reimbursement. Previously, we had the 26,000 in there, and that was the number that we were given at the time of the conversation leading up to the budget. And now that the chief of police has confirmed those numbers with the state and the MDEA program, we can say that we're getting $106,358.57 as a reimbursement for that officer. And this is another example of those corresponding expense to revenues. So we have that on his expense side in the non-supervisory line. And this is the revenue side of what we're getting reimbursed for that on the general government revenue side. And the same speaks to the SRO reimbursement. For one SRO officer, the school reimburses 75% of those wages. Other items here are school details, miscellaneous fees, police report fees. I didn't have any other increases. Those typically stay within those confines. ACO, we discussed on Saturday that those are based on a calculation based on number of calls and based on per capita. And we contract with Sabattis, Bowdoin, and Durham. So these are the upcoming budget for those three towns. And then the last public safety area is dispatching fees. We have Lisbon Emergency reimburse us for dispatching services, and I had left that the same. I believe Chief McGee had spoke that that contract is up this year, so we left that the same. Total public safety, $242,475.57. So we're seeing that $111,567.57 increase largely attributable to that MDEA reimbursement. The next section is solid waste. We're going to have a $48,760 increase, or 23.42%, which is largely attributable to the sticker price increase in the upcoming year. The sticker prices will increase from $35 to $52 for the year. And the the average number of stickers is around 3,000. So that revenue proposal is based on those 3,000 stickers multiplied by $52.
Is that just the main sticker or is that both? Because I could have two. I could pay for one for 52 and then get a second one for half.
Yeah,
So that's both.
that's just the main
Okay,
sticker.
yeah.
And I also took a look at what we've brought in so far in comparison to the increase of the sticker price. We do keep track of who gets a secondary sticker. And I believe that that would be a great discussion point, as the secondary sticker, I believe, is $15.
Yeah.
And if that wanted to remain at $15, or if that should be reflective of a price increase as well. I didn't include that because we haven't had that discussion yet. So I'd be happy to leave notes to increase for those secondary permits. We don't find as many.
Right.
You probably, if I were to put a number to it, you're probably going to find a couple hundred get a secondary sticker. So we're probably looking at a total of 3,300 stickers sold throughout the year. We can certainly increase it based on those numbers for secondary sticker.
It's worth the discussion anyway.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth the discussion, right?
Okay. And then the other items are our other disposals, our metal, cardboard, mixed paper, newspaper, yard items, tires, universal waste, and the commercial disposal fee. The commercial disposal fee is based on current year after last year's increase. And so that I had increased 12,700 just based on the collections. When I was looking at fiscal year 23's revenue that we've brought in so far, it's not just commercial haulers, there's other commercial businesses that have purchased that type of permit. And so that includes other businesses that dispose, and so that's what we saw an increase in this year. The excavation revenue, Randy had spoke of how that tends to have a corresponding revenue to an expense item, and that I had increased 1,000 based on what we're looking at for fiscal year 23. The other items, our largest item that we see are yard items.
See, that's pretty impressive, $32,000 of income here.
Yeah.
Be interested to see what it actually costs us to dispose of them. I mean, whether that's actually actually net profit or not.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. So for total solid waste of 257,000, which is an increase of 23.42%. The next section is going to be culture and recreation, where we start with the library. I had small increases here, again, based on looking at 3-year averages and based on what we've collected so far in 23 and where I expect us to be as of June 30th. The library has non-residents, and based on what the library has been presented, we're seeing a lot of people coming back to the library. We're seeing a lot of attraction from outside of Lisbon, and so I had increased that slightly because of that. And then they also have small amounts for fines and taxes and damages. Overall, $3,500 revenue for the library. And then this one, the one that I was trying to update with Mark's presentation tonight. So the Parks and Recreation Department, he had spoken about increasing from $475 to $550 for a resident and up to $750 for a non-resident. The number he had talked about tonight, there was approximately 60 non-residents. And I had asked the Parks and Recreation Department, because we have 3 camps. We have playground, checker, and cricket. And I tried to kind of get a breakout between the camps based on the total number of kids and the amount for the camp. So playground, I'm expecting $44,150 increase, and tracker $17,600 increase. And again, that can fluctuate just based on each year. You could have different age groups or different kids, but just going off of the 2023 numbers. And he had talked about a $50,000 increase to revenue, and that would be determinable of whether I have that $60 non-resident amount in the right space. So that can also be subject to change, but on par with what his presentation was tonight, I'm expecting an additional $50,000 to $60,000 increase to the Parks and Recreation Summer Camp program. Total Parks and Recreation of $347,500. You'll note here that total increase is showing $90,000. We talked about on Saturday the new line for bus transportation, which is going to have a corresponding expense to a corresponding revenue. The bus line that the Parks and Recreation Department uses for children trips and senior trips has now asked the town to provide a singular check for each specific trip. And so to do that, we had to add a line item on the expense side, and then we will collect the checks from the residents to then bring it in on the revenue side to have that corresponding revenue to expense. And so that 16,000 is increasing from his 50,000 proposed for the camps, but that has a matching expense. And the same with the new programs, an increase of 10,000, which again has a corresponding expense.
Where does it actually show? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt this.
Oh, that's okay.
So the room rental, what is that actually category does that fall under as far as like the, just the MTM? Is that what the 4,500? Actually, right there, the 4,306, is that what it falls under? 4,306, the
Yes,
maybe
it
some
does.
more. So that's actually for room rental and stuff.
Yes.
Yep. So and that should, I mean, you put a pretty substantial increase on some of those hourly fees.
Mhm.
So I would think that, not that you have to show it here, but I would assume at the end of the year that would actually add some pretty substantial numbers. I would think,
Yeah,
right?
those were the first time I heard those numbers. Those can be added as well.
And
And I'll connect with Mark about adding that specific for the room difference.
that's fine, yeah. But I mean, but look at it, it was almost, you know, the percentage added that should come up, I would think, a couple $1,000 pretty easily.
Mhm, certainly. Next section is the TIF revenue. This is for the Economic Community Development Office. And so what this does is this matches the revenue to the expense side for the ECD budget. And on Saturday's presentation, we had discussed about the TIF that has ended June 30th, 2023, which historically has funded the ECD budget. And with that TIF ending on June 30th, 2023, we're not having any TIF revenue coming in. So the suggestion here is to bring in 50% of what's already available left in that TIF to help off, and that in the way it has been for several years, have that corresponding revenue to the expense. And then next year, you'll see this line item go away, and it would be 100% on the operating budget side.
Or a new tip, right?
Or a new TIF. Never know. This section is for interest rebates for capital leases. We see that each year, and it's towards the end of the year, we have that come in. I don't have a year to actual yet, but I left that just the same. They will expect that to come in around that amount for a total general revenue of $5,200,753.57, or an increase of 8.48%, $406,338.57. And then I just would like to share what that means on the bottom line in comparison
So you took
to.
out about 2/3 of our increase is what you're telling me?
So based on those changes to the revenues, $5,200,753.57. The net effect that was previously presented last Thursday was a $683,000 figure for a net effect. After those changes to the revenues, you're now looking at a $563,000.76 net effect.
Pretty good.
The last section of this revenue proposed budget is for our sewer fund. The sewer superintendent is looking at a 4% rate increase for domestic and industrial and an 8% rate increase for septic. With those increases, it's a $63,182 or 4.22% increase, bringing his total revenue to $1,560,302. And that is the detail of these revenue line items. And I think it was a good example of how that could change during this budgeting process. And we can fill in those adjustments. I don't expect state revenue sharing to provide an update, but I always just go on the website and refresh just to see if it does. One can be hopeful. But just based on trends and where I'm seeing it, I do not expect the state revenue sharing to provide an updated projection. So yeah, I could take any questions on revenues at this time.
I think we're.
All that good news, it's hard to.
I have a question. Do you have the idea of the new valuation that we expect to capture for this next year? I know there's been construction in town.
Yeah, I don't know at this time if that thing will be going out soon. You'll see them driving around. I would hope to see that there would be an increase. As you said, there has been a lot of new construction, which is nice to see, and you'll see that reflected accordingly on that valuation number.
Yeah, that could definitely impact the totals that we raise if we have some new construction there.
Absolutely.
I think Harry mentioned he had a lot of new construction in his place this year.
Definitely need to do a couple ride lines.
Need to get some spray paint. Mess it up a little bit.
You know, actually, that's Mike said, there's a lot of new construction plus a new apartment complex that's actually going to wrap up this year. So this can be, I mean, our numbers actually, I think are looking very favorable for what we've actually been able to do. We've actually definitely in the last few years have done a lot of improvements as far as for our capital.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty impressive.
We also will get the other half of the Dingley Press that's been going back to them will come into the general fund. So that's some extra revenue there too.
Yes, there will also probably be around 300,000.
Pretty substantial bill.
Yeah. Good stuff. Leaving with good news, you know, that's awesome, right?
Yeah. Curtain call.
Yeah, it's a curtain call.
It's a good way to leave.
On a high mic and walk away, right?
That's a mic drop.
Boom. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I do want to apologize that I'm sorry you don't feel good. And I know Glenn doesn't feel very good. And
Not passed.
Christine
Lasagna.
doesn't feel good. And a couple of girls. And I'm pretty sure that we can look at somebody that ate lasagna yesterday. But from what I'm hearing, that's sort of a common theme.
I should have left that at home again.
It's a very bad season.
Yeah.
This time of year, once the snow melts, it all comes out.
Next time I'll just go to Food City and get Campbell soup.
No, it was worth with me.
Thank you. Next item.
Safety committee formation and discussion.
Did we want to touch on the parking lot discussion from
Oh,
the
sorry.
expense workshop? There was just, because did we prep the à la carte menu for paving for them, or should we do that at another time?
So the Public Works Director, I talked with him today, and he had reached out to a vendor that we've previously done paving with to help us get an estimate. Of course, it would all go out to a bidding process. It's just trying to obtain those types of quotes for budgetary conversations. And he said that he had them look at Littlefield Road and about 100 yards where it would connect to King Road. And if we were to put the 500,000 back into normal paving line, that would cover the Littlefield reconstruction. And if the council would like to add that back on the operating budget side, the Public Works Director feels confident that that amount similar to our annual paving would take care of that. And after taking care of Littlefield, it will put the town where a lot of the roads are now up to a standard of not having.
Not falling apart.
Not falling apart. Thank you. I was trying to find the right way.
This paving schedule would be on schedule.
Yes, it was.
That's what he was talking to me about that during the luncheon.
At one point in time, I know it's not written in our regular capital plan, but we actually had, I thought a list of actually capital road reconstructions.
We have the 10-year paving plan. It's not in the capital plan, but I have, is that what you're talking about, like Randy's? punch
Well, I was
list?
just curious, because I knew, we knew it was Pinewood Road, and we knew Ferry Road needed to be done eventually. And years back, we had done Gould Road and Bodenham Road. Is Littlefield Road, I mean, is that really the only last road that needed reconstruction? It seems so that there's other roads in town.
I would argue there's a lot of.
Yeah, and I'd really be questioning the idea of Littlefield Road, not questioning as to anybody's thought, but the idea of, when I think of reconstruction, I think of millions, not hundreds. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know what the reconstruction to me, whether that's just digging down and totally removing the asphalt and putting a layer, 6 or 8 inches of new surface and then repaving. I don't know what the reconstruction terminology is when it comes to $500,000 worth, but it's like 500,000. When you look at what we did on Ferry Road cost. Right.
I thought Randy told me that on Littlefield Road, he was gonna rebuild the curb, have them remove the tar, then our employees were gonna go out there and do the groundwork, rebuild the curb there, and then have them come back and tar. And that's why the price is so flat down. Right?
How does that fit with the rest of our street program, paving program? The one that was put off or will be put off this year, where did Littlefield Road fit in that? Or did it?
So I don't want to speak for Randy, but I have, and I don't know how dated the paving plan is, but I think part of it was prioritizing roads that were off the DOT construction project, because that way, they're going to be paving there this year, and we also give the water department opportunity. They're laying infrastructure over there, so we don't have to tear it up twice. But based on the plan that I have in front of me, 2024 was scheduled for Maple Street, Goddard Street, Lincoln Street, High Street, Earl Street, North Street, South Street, Douglas Street, River Street, Huey Street, and David Street.
He said all the feeders off Main Street.
Right.
Up 125.
Yeah. But that was, going off that document without.
Yes, there was, I guess what Don's question, maybe I'm reading into it, is where was Littlefield on that list?
Littlefield was actually scheduled for 2027 on this plan, but again, I don't know how old this plan is, or I don't want to speak for Randy.
I'm sure Littlefield Road's going to survive to 2026.
I mean, the biggest question is
It is in red highlighted, so I don't know what that means, whatever the color coding system is.
so how much, so what was the footage on Littlefield Road that actually that wasn't Littlefield Road, that's
so
just the King Road, that sounds things, right?
Assuming LF is linear foot, 4,800.
4,800, which is probably less than
Just shy of a mile.
You could probably do just the first half of it or less, like go to King Road and maybe a little beyond there. It's the worst section of it. Not as bad past there because it was more recently paved, I believe.
and stuff.
So we might, do 1,500 feet or something.
The,
Anyway, to
the
contain the cost of it.
500,000 would actually, I mean, if we had nothing new in revenues, would actually bring us up to another, almost not 3/4 of a mil in that area, or almost, what do we consider 1 mil at this point in time? Was it the 640 or
Mill is about 603,000.
600? So it'd be almost another mil added on to the budget.
Yeah.
We're gonna face it next year if we don't face it this year.
No.
We don't know if it's gonna be more expensive next year or less expensive next year.
Yeah.
Because things are starting to come down.
And the question is And maybe this doesn't, maybe I'm just thinking I'm totally wrong, but if we were to take that TIF money in for taxation, it's over that 250, do we actually have need permission for that? Or is that something through this process we don't?
Are you asking about?
Yeah, for a single project, since this is a single project that's over $500,000, is it, I mean, over the 250, do we actually have to ask permission from the voters for?
That's my understanding for capital outlay. Yeah, it's a $250,000 question.
So, I mean, this would have to go to voters in a sense to actually approve, so,
Well, not.
yeah.
It would, we just budget, would it?
What's that?
Would we just added it back into his budget? I mean, that would.
We're still asking
I
for
mean, I guess
taxation of,
if you're doing it in-house, is that,
I borrowing.
is it
I
borrowing?
think it's just borrowing. I think it's only borrowing that's the charter.
Right, I mean, we're just putting money back in his budget that he took out of his budget.
Yeah, in a sense.
We shouldn't need a vote.
I think it's only borrowing.
That's why they
Just
voted
some
for us.
clarification, that's
I
all,
think
because we're
borrowing.
not borrowing, but we are asking that, you know,
Yeah,
it's not,
'cause you're-
it's new money, it's not.
really like an in-kind
It's new money.
expense, so you would just be upping your expense budget unless the funding source obviously was a bond or something, which we wouldn't be doing for in-house work. It's
No, if we were,
recurring revenue should equal recurring.
Maybe we
expenses
could get-
should be the mantra, not to bond for.
it's paying as you go, so I mean, that's basically what we're looking at, we're not looking to borrow, we look at pay as we go, and in the scheme of things, it's not a big percentage, it's actually we've been doing yearly. I mean, I definitely want to, consider it, if nothing else, I mean,
Maybe we
that-
should get Randy back in here, just
We
to let
have
us know
time.
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, let us know exactly.
We have plenty of time.
yes,
Right.
So just.
I can't say yes,
hopefully
but
this-
there again,
You
sorry.
can come up to
I'm sorry.
state your name, please.
Kevin Ridley, 19 Irene Street. So during the workshop, Mr. Lynn brought that up, and I thought it was a good idea. It's a case of pay me now, pay me later. We've got a plan in place, and I would advocate that, if we don't do it this year, then it's twice as much next year, and given inflationary pressures on everything, I think we'll probably pay more next year, be my best guess. So I would advocate for that.
It's a known need, right?
Yeah, need is right. Look at the roads, and I think, it was a very wise decision not to pave things that are gonna be ripped up in 2 years. That was a good decision. I think replace that with something else. It's a good idea.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I ask one, go ahead, Don.
Okay, I just was gonna say, to Mark's point, if we put off expenditures that we're gonna incur again next year, like paving of $500,000 worth, we're also gonna have the rest of the salary offset and perhaps TIF revenue that we don't have. So it's gonna add even more to that next year. And I'd rather not add things more next year than we have to.
Okay. My thoughts would have Randy come in maybe at our next meeting just to explain the Littlefield project, if that's the target.
Yeah.
So we have a little more handle on what they're gonna do.
And like I said,
Yes,
just
yes.
not if we gotta do it, it's just a matter of when, and if it's a when, do it when it's more cost effective, right? May I ask a question?
Yeah.
I asked Glenn earlier, there's usually a line in the budget, and I'm sure it went through on the expense side that we usually put aside for traffic control allowance. Is that on the public works or is that under general? It's always an odd spot, so.
Yeah, it's in the other public works departments, the 1505-3000. That's with your hydrant rental, your electricity, your street lights, that's in that budget.
Yeah.
And we have an R&M street lights specs account that we budgeted $17,000 for.
Yeah, now is that typical what we usually do annually is $17,000 for the upkeep?
Yeah.
I know in the past it really hasn't kept up pace at times because we've actually had to pull money from other areas, but maybe we're at a point now where we have a lot of them updated with cameras and there's no more. Now we used to have just the cuts in the hot top and you would have a wire and it would break, and now we have pretty much all cameras. most of them, so.
So the 360 cameras in those major intersections, like Route 9 Capitol Ave, for example, the ones that we had installed in the past 2 fiscal years were funded through TIF. So you weren't going to see that on the operating expense side. It was built into the budget on a capital improvement plan, but the funding source was through a TIF. And I think the next 360 camera we've got is fiscal year 25.
And unknown what the funding at that will be at this point in time, but until we get there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was just curious. I don't remember seeing it the other day, so I was just trying to figure out what it was. So.
All right.
So with the budget where it stands now, prior to adding that 500, where are we as far as mill rate? Adding, we will.
She won't commit to that.
We won't know the valuation still after April, so, but I mean, I guess if you want to factor in those expenses without knowing the valuations, you're looking at just under prior to adding, but if you add the paving, probably closer to 2 mil.
And as a resident, if you have $100,000 home, what's that do to that person?
So I'll use a $100,000 valuation as an example. And if we were to do a 1 mil increase, 100,000 valuation would increase your taxes by $100 for the year. If you did a 2 mil increase, that would be a $200 increase for the year.
That's on 100,000.
That's on 100,000.
So if you have a $300,000 home, you're looking at $600 increase.
Without figuring in the evaluation.
Right,
of what we
that-
probably get. So
Understood.
Doesn't get any better from there, but worst case scenario at this point,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Pretty competitive, 1 year increase.
You're gonna see it next year, so.
I get it, do you all know?
Yeah, can't go.
You all know?
I guess unless a couple more banks collapse, then, you know, maybe things will be cheaper, but.
You get carried away
Dude.
quick.
It would be, I mean, it would be not that you don't have a crystal ball because we never do, but the known increases in evaluation. I mean, I think there's some knowns as far as for, I believe one of Kelly Park buildings is coming online right this spring. But I don't think it's hit before now.
I would have to check with assessing, I'm not really sure.
I believe it's
you're right.
it's filling up the spring, I believe anyways, but I mean, it'd just be, I mean, there's probably some knowns, just some educated guesses on what it would be. I mean, you can't pick every house, and we don't know what Terry's increased. I mean, it's, you know, he may pay for this whole thing by himself, so we maybe.
We won't get a dime out of him, he's 65.
Right, you check.
But it's all good. I mean, at least we have numbers, we have ideas, and I mean, as long as I have no problem selling as long as it's realistic, right? And that's what it comes down to. I haven't driven down Littlefield Road lately, but the last time I was out there, it was pretty bumpy, but.
It's, I mean, historically, Littlefield Road only has been a little hairy. Especially in the cruiser.
At 100.
Oh, no, I never went over the speed limit.
Well, like Randy said, right, it's a crossover, right? A lot of construction over there. You know,
Yeah, and do, I mean,
I don't believe Dewey owns that anymore, but I mean.
well, I should say, the anonymous pit that has giant
Big trucks.
wheelers that go back and forth on that road. Don't help it.
It's also the back way to Lewiston for a lot of people.
it's a crossover.
Well, you want to build the roadbed good and strong so we'll withstand those trucks driving over there, because it was an old farm road that never really had a good roadbed built properly. So.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure that's what that road is supposed to be. It probably isn't, but I think that it should be posted right now.
Yeah, now, because it's spring, but I don't think it's posted.
year round.
I don't think it's a posted road. I think it,
You have to allow people access to the.
I think once the
business
spring is
there,
over, you can.
sue you to block it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the reconstruction we're looking at is gonna really change the total structure of that road. It's probably gonna fix the surface that we're at, but I mean, you would have to go down feet.
Yeah, I think we need, that's why I think we need Randy to tell us whether we're gonna,
What we would do.
yeah, if they're gonna do the under limit and all that stuff.
So I believe, audience actually had another comment. I'm not sure.
I
if you-
did have a question. I did have a question.
Sure,
Should I approach or?
yes,
Okay,
please,
all right.
so we can get you on the record.
Okay, on the record. So the budget discussion Saturday, I learned a lot from every presenter. Haley was there to back them all up, did a great job. So I'm not sure how this process works. I was expecting maybe a more informal discussion between finance committee and the town council, or is this a? I got some question.
So adoption occurs in June. So there's we've done all the workshops, I guess, to this point. We've covered all expenses and revenues and debt service, and there may be some amendments between now and those discussions, but June is when you're looking at adoption, so.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I I don't want to interrupt this.
No, go ahead.
In the past, typically the finance committee would actually listen to the information pretty much at the same time as the council, but then they would actually go on their own and actually amongst the finance committee kind of talk about the information and come back with council during some of the other discussions if there was any recommendations or concerns. And then typically we would both listen to the audience. We have a public hearing one night where the audience is able to come in and voice their concerns. And then typically before the budget is actually approved by the council, usually the finance committee, if they have any concerns, addresses them, then actually makes a recommendation to the council what they feel would be the best direction for the final budget approval.
I like that idea.
Yeah, you would be
I
making a
think,
recommendation as a committee. It's not like individual recommendations. So you're making
But-
the finance committee's recommendation to the council.
If I could hold us right here, I kind of want to finish the revenue side that we have audience participation coming up. If you could wait and hold it,
Sure.
questions for that.
Yep.
So we can finish with Kayla and let her go
That's for
home
sure.
and go to bed.
Good with that.
So.
And then take some comp coming late tomorrow, obviously, and phone in the rest of the day. I keep saying that she's not going to, she's gonna work, perhaps she'll be here before me, probably.
Any more questions regarding revenue?
I'm good.
Good.
If not, then there's no vote here, right? It's just a discussion. So you are free to go home. Take some allergy medicine.
Oh, thank you.
After you get home, so you don't get drowsy.
Hopefully, yeah, that laptop was on.
You really was, yeah.
Never gonna do it again, are you?
Campbell soup coming.
I've eaten over there before, so you're all being generous. It's fine. It's close. Next item.
Safety Committee formation and discussion.
Okay, I can speak to that. Myself and the police chief and the fire chief met last week, and we decided that the formation of the Public Safety Committee has occurred. And one of our concerns initially was, should it be a permanent committee or an ad hoc committee? And we decided that at this point, we think it should be ad hoc. So we meet when we need to meet to discuss what we need to discuss. If that changes as we move forward with the committee, then we can have a discussion and decide whether we want to turn it into something more permanent.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
We're going to call it the Ad Hoc Public Safety Committee. It's an advisory committee at this point to the town council. The committee was made up of 5 members, to include the chief of police, fire chief, EMA director, town councilor, and a member of the public. The initial members are myself, Chief Ryan McGee, fire chief Nate Leclerc, a community member, which we haven't decided yet, and the EMA director, which I believe is vacant right now. Alternate members will include the town manager and public works director and Maine State Representative Rick Mason. Public works director certainly can be involved in public safety, so we wanted to have him, but not necessarily as a full member, but as an associate. The goal of the Public Safety Committee is to provide a safe community where all residents feel equally served and protected, ensuring the town has adequate staffing across all public safety departments. To study and prepare recommendations on public safety in Lisbon and to include emergency management, fire protection, and emergency medical services. Also to maintain and enhance public safety infrastructure, implement new technologies, provide operation and training opportunities, and improve communication among public safety agencies, and to accept nothing less than excellence. What we do is important. What we do to make a difference, what we do makes a difference in our community. And our first task that we've assigned ourselves is the public safety building. So
I've got a task form too, when you're ready.
what's that?
I'd like the public safety committee to help evaluate, the EMS bids when they close tomorrow.
Perfect. So, once can you email me whatever information you have on that?
Yep, they close tomorrow at noon, and then I can circulate bids to have the fire chief, myself, council liaison, and, we'll review the bids, recommend council after review.
Okay. I'm not gonna be here tomorrow, so if there's anybody on the council that wants to step in that, I mean, I could do it maybe the day after.
Well, we have
Same.
time, I can circulate everything as it comes in and
Okay.
I have to create a matrix for the bids.
Okay.
And then, we could probably put it on the agenda for the April 4th meeting? Is that the
Yeah.
first Tuesday?
Yeah. Sounds good. But you can get me, what do you have now for information, and I'll send me it.
Yeah.
The numbers.
Have we, man, Chair, have we actually put out, I know you sometimes you do some fancy, advertising for job description stuff. Have we put out a really good descriptive, position for the EMA director?
We haven't put it out since I've been here, and I actually haven't read through the current job description for the EMA director. I can circle back with the chief tomorrow and kind of,
I think if it was put out, Daniel Ryan's been putting out some neat advertising for police officers and makes it look really nice. and
I think they were
professional.
looking at a share too.
Yeah.
The EMA director share with another town.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we put it out there that maybe members of our community that actually have an interest and maybe have some background, you know, that actually it'd be nice to actually pull someone in that actually has some, you know, some first responder or emergency service background that actually could probably fit right in, and it's actually a special type of person that probably just waiting for the opportunity, right? You never know. And it actually, I mean, there's a stipend position that actually is reimbursed fairly well for the position, probably unless we have a big tragedy or something like that, but for the planning part of it, I think someone is paid well for that time.
yeah, we can definitely go out to ad, because I don't think we've gone out to ad for it. I think it's just kind of been an informal, trying to find folks who might be interested either on staff or on committees who have maybe the incident command trainings or the NEMS, is it NEMS?
NEMS.
Yeah, NEMS.
We just put it, you
Yeah,
know,
we can put it out there.
put on a web service and emails and maybe out front and sign. You never know. I mean, we may pull in somebody that we'd be able to pull them into more stuff, right? So
Maybe.
Mr. Chair,
Listen.
can I ask a town manager a question, please?
Sure.
I'm not sure I heard everything, but is this safety committee have any of the meet any of the requirements of our liability insurance carrier, or is that part of it? Or do we have other requirements for safety meetings and things because of that?
We have the workplace safety committee that our insurance company does require, but I do think that MMA has a public safety committee component too. So we may get, I haven't gone through it. The assistant town manager and the HR director and Nate have kind of been taking the lead on the implementing the MMA policies. But I do recall someone mentioning public safety committee being a component of some of that MMA discount rates and whatnot.
That's kind of what I thought, and I know a lot of companies have that, so.
Yeah, okay, so it is
checking out the box, right?
checking out a box.
Anything else?
And just a question, the citizens, is that something you're gonna work on? What's your procedure on picking the citizen that actually is gonna play a role in you actually already have leads?
We have some in mind. we're looking at, public safety background, whether it's police, fire, EMS.
Nice.
Good idea.
Do you want us to put out, an application like we normally solicit volunteers for, like we did for the marijuana advisory committee, or just take letters of interest? I don't, the council, I'm not sure.
No,
Got it.
we'll know more when we, get a little better idea of where we're looking.
Sounds good. I'm glad it's actually in motion because I think it's gonna help us.
Yeah, I think so.
So different areas.
And the big task, like I said, is the public safety building, so that's gonna be kind of consuming for the committee initially.
So, good. Glad to see it
That doesn't
happening.
mean we can't walk into ground. That's it. Next item,
Council committee reports.
school committee.
Sorry.
I don't know, I'm assuming that these are all current, I'm not sure, but I'm just gonna say that the committee, you know, you're on it, then you can say so. So, go ahead.
I have nothing to report at the moment.
Planning board,
The planning board meets Thursday and currently they have cases on the Springworks Farm expansion, a Littlefield Farm Camp, a line lot revision on Frost Hill Avenue, something going on, tier 2 review for the former Lisbon Falls Getty. You probably know more about it than I do. And another rear lot conditional use. And that seems like a really full agenda. I'm assuming they will accept cases and set hearings.
I heard those who Falls Getty was because of them becoming an art shop for art. Go ahead. Prison Development Committee,
Nothing to report.
Conservation Commission, they canceled their last meeting because of the snowstorm, and I don't know if they set a new date for a meeting as of today. Parks and Rec,
They presented rate increases to the council, and I believe it actually went over well, so. That is it.
County Budget, we'll skip over that. Library Governing Board,
We had a great update during the budget process from the library director, so that would be my report.
Nice.
Water Commission,
The only thing I have on them is that they're going to have their next meeting on April 11th at 5 p.m. And by the way, the LDC does meet tomorrow night, right here, right there, at 6 o'clock.
Finance Committee,
I don't have anything. Do you know if we're meeting this month?
Don't have anything scheduled yet, but just to circle back to Kevin's question, they're gonna have to hold a meeting in May for the finance committee to review the budget and provide a recommendation to the council.
You may be able to kind of help steer that in direction, especially since we'll probably be in kind of a twilight zone.
We'll manage.
We'll manage. I'm sure you will, but
I got Gail's email, definitely.
yeah, but I think you actually can help steer the boat a little bit to make sure that all comes together. Fully capable.
Town Manager's Report.
Sure. I have a couple things. We went out to bid today, solicited bids for the Warumbo Waterfront Loam and Seed project. EMS bid will close tomorrow at noon. Ferry Road closes next week. So there's a couple of things out there. Just wanted to request authorization from the council for a minor policy update. You authorized the MOA with the PDASOA. Was that the acronym for the union over there with the police? For FOP to update the bereavement leave. I would just like to reflect that same change in the town personnel policy. That is just upping the immediate family members for a 5-day bereavement to cover current spouse, child, stepchild, mother, father, sibling, or step parent, and to add grandparent to the 3-day leave. And I believe we added cousins to leave 1 day for bereavement.
Would you like a motion on that?
Did,
I mean, is that something you'd like to vote on?
Yeah, just so I can modify the personnel policy to match the language in the MOA that was signed.
did the previous, structure of that mirror, the union? They did,
The new language mirrors the MOA.
did the old one mirror as well? Before the agreement was
The
approved for the FOP?
before it was less. And I think, I'm trying to remember what Ryan added. You got 5 working days only for a child or a stepchild. It did not include a spouse or mother, father, sibling, or step parent.
So either way, they mirror.
Yeah, they will now.
And the, can we make a motion for discussion? I'm not sure how you want to handle that, but
Yeah, somebody make a.
I'll make a motion to actually, to approve what he actually wrote as far as the updated in red writing.
I'll second.
The, at the end of the day, I mean, there's really the goal for everybody employed with Lisbon to actually have the same.
It would be nice to have that uniform. Obviously, some of the bargaining units are gonna have some different language, but
What you're trying to do is.
I don't want to be more restrictive if both the bargaining units have the same policy.
Yeah, understood.
But, to be honest, the union would argue that they're doing all the work, paying all the dues, and the non-unions are getting all the gravy, but that's an old argument.
Well, I guess the
Union.
option is for everybody not to be non-union, and then they can work together to be.
Yeah, or vice versa, which has happened in the past.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I think it's
There's been
just,
a lot
this
of
one
women.
was kind of an antiquated policy, and I think it's just,
I don't think there's an argument.
Yeah.
with what they're doing.
Fair and equitable as well. For it.
so that's that one.
Do you want to actually
We have to-
vote on that
I'm
one?
sorry.
There's been a first and a second.
So roll call, Counselor Moore,
Bye.
Counselor Robichaud,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows,
Yes,
Counselor Keller,
Yes.
Counselor Rochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Lund.
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, order passed 6-0.
I've got a couple of these, sorry.
Okay.
So we talked a little bit about this on Saturday. I would just like to request authorization to execute the contract renewal with Mid-Maine Waste Action Corporation at the 5-year contract, locking in at $83 a ton. If we do the 3-year, the tipping fee schedule is $85 a ton for the 3-year contract, and it's $83 a ton for the 5 years. So to execute the 5-year agreement, that's a sole source, because if we go to Norwalk, we're talking 8 hours on the road with the haulers. And there's really no other options out there.
I make a motion, we approve the 5-year bid.
second,
That one.
We're gonna vote. Counselor Moore,
Aye.
Counselor Robichaud,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows,
yes,
Counselor Keller,
Yes.
Counselor Rochelle,
Yes.
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, order passed 6-0.
The next one, on February 7th, the council authorized us to initiate an action to initiate a land use complaint against the property on 142 Ridge Road. You know the history of that property. The representative for the property owner, who now has power of attorney, had come to me after that meeting. I would just like to request, I guess, how should I word this? I would like to request authorization from the council to negotiate a consent agreement with Daniel and Stanley, who is the power of attorney. And if we can't reach a consent agreement by after we negotiate a consent agreement and have the property cleaned up by May 31st, then to proceed with the court action. I guess there's been a lot going on over there, and I just kind of want to give them the benefit of the doubt that the notice of violation, that was ignored for a year. There's some family stuff going on, so Stanley had come in and going to talk to the code enforcement officer about trying to resolve it before we follow through with the court action. So talked to the attorney, and she said you're totally allowed to do that. So I would just like to see if we can come to some sort of agreement before we take them to court.
Make a motion for discussion.
A second. So I go by there quite a bit and they are absolutely giving it an effort. Now, whether they can get it done by the end of May, they'd have to pick that pace up a little bit. I think that should be part of the discussion. But I don't want to take away from what they've been doing. They have been taking a lot out of there. But is that an achievable goal for themselves to say the end of May? Right? Are they setting themselves up to fail, or do they have a plan that's going to increase the labor over there to be more? I don't know what the plan is, but end of May is going to be here quick.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the way I'll word the order is just authorization to start negotiating a consent agreement before taking action with the district court. So him and Mark can work out whatever that is, but just want to give them the opportunity to get it taken care of before there's a court action.
Mr. Chairman, the expenses the town is in.
There will be a civil penalty because it went ignored for so long. So, and it will.
I mean, we've actually expended the town. That this one is actually keeping track of I just want to make sure we've had history in the town of actually getting this one and backing up and not be able to recover some of what we expended, and we're not looking to
Oh, no.
make any benefits on this. It's just more the idea we don't want to go.
Yeah, there will still be a substantial civil penalty, and we're looking at levying a $10,000 civil penalty because it has gone ignored for so long. Our typical consent agreements are usually around $2,500, $3,000 for the notice of violation, so it will still be cheaper than going forward.
Yeah, I would actually say at this point in time, I'm in favor of the idea of having Mark work with them as long as it's an ongoing process and we have some type of end game, right?
Yep.
That's my thought.
For reasons that I'll keep to myself, I would want to also make sure that if they're being told to remove these items, that they're actually removed and not bulldozed back into the woods and piled up like a berm in front of the items that are supposed to be taken out of there.
Okay.
So it needs to be observed, I guess, by somebody. I'm not sure who, maybe Mark, that it's not just getting
Relocated
on the property, because I think that's happening.
I'd like to add that to not just relocate on the property, but move to another nearby property, because there's a property across from Mr. Bowie's house where I believe some things have been moved in there, and he's not too happy with that, so.
Yeah, I mean, in the draft consent agreement, I have that the owner shall remove all discarded, worn out, or junk lumber, rubber debris, discarded scrap iron, steel, and other ferrous, non-ferrous metals from said property on or before whatever date we determine, and shall maintain the property in a condition free of any significant accumulation of such materials at all times thereafter until an automobile graveyard and junkyard permit is lawfully obtained. And there's a couple other provisions, but that's essentially the nuts and bolts of it.
Are you
Are we encouraging that they get a permit?
Yeah, I would.
That's what it sounds like there, but that's all.
I would caution against
Yeah.
giving them.
Well, right now, the notice of violation is for an unpermitted graveyard and junkyard, so that's what he's currently.
And I don't think that, I mean, to me, I don't think that it was the intent that every area was to ever have a permitted salvage location. But again, that's,
The limit is to unregistered and uninspected vehicles. Anything more than that is when it becomes an unpermitted automobile graveyard.
and that's was going to be my next comment that I have in communications, but we'll finish this one first.
You remember what the tool is.
That's a lot. I mean, so the motion and a second is basically where we're at. I mean,
Don, did you have something that you wanted to say?
I just wanted to ask if we had a time limit, or we're setting a time limit for the negotiation for a consent agreement.
As of right now, I'm proposing May 31st, but if
Okay, okay.
Mark can an agreement that's reasonable, I don't see the need to kind of just arbitrarily pick a date, but the goal is to get it cleaned up and
Mm-hmm.
give them.
Yeah, I just didn't want to have it be open-ended and go on all summer long. You know?
Yeah. I might add something in there about making sure that anything removed from the site is taken to a legally allowed site, so again, we don't have being moved onto another residential site down the road. I don't want to see that happen, just try to dodge the rules.
Who's it?
Ready for a vote?
Anything else?
No, that's one, we're good.
Ready for a vote?
All right, Counselor Moore,
Aye.
Counselor Robichaud.
Yes.
Counselor Fellows,
Yes,
Counselor Keller,
Yes.
Counselor Laoshao,
Yes.
Counselor Lund.
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, order passed 6-0.
So the next one I've got is, and we talked a little bit about this on Saturday. I would like authorization to create the position of full-time tax collector at the salary grade I in the wage scale. I grabbed the attorney before he left, before he got here from the zoning board. So it'd only be an ordinance for creating a department, but I believe just in order I can add the position to the salary grade. And the goal is we have an anticipated vacancy in the front office to partially fund it with the salary of that anticipated vacancy and perhaps a portion of overlay to get through to the next fiscal year. And then have the tax collector use their discretion to staff the office and fill that vacancy after they're hired.
Make a motion for discussion.
Second.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there was anybody that had any big concerns with the idea of that, and one of the other responsibilities this person is going to be managing the front end of the town office, correct?
Be like a working front office manager, supervisor, tax collector.
So,
And we had talked about that too. And Kayla knows more about the operations of that office if you want to have any questions related to operations, but we kind of had these discussions internally at this point, I think. And I know the finance committee chair brought up that the position had existed at one point and had gone away. And this is us bringing it back. So
that's pretty much anybody in the front as far as the tax and registration stuff. Now, the clerk's office, who do they fall under as far as for supervision? Are they actually they stand alone?
the department head is the clerk and the deputy clerk is part of that department.
Okay, then used to collect some fees in that office, right? As far as more just clerk type fees, right? As far as marriage license and things. I know it was always kind of interesting now where you had to go to pay money, so I think it's all good. I was just curious on what would fall underneath that management, that's all.
Yeah, and I guess, like I said, if you're more familiar with the front office operations, if you want to just touch on the broad strokes of what that position would entail.
So right now there are 3 front counter clerks, and Glenn spoke to, there's 1 leaving, so that would, tax collector would supervise that front office. I think with your question about the clerk, different towns and historically, is my understanding, when it comes to hunting and fishing licensing, some towns have it under the clerk's department, some towns have it up front with the counter with the tax collection department. Our town has it with the front counter with the tax collection department. And if it were under the clerks, that tax collector would also oversee that, but that's not the case here, where it is held within that front counter tax collection area. So that would be the supervisory level of those staff. And then the other functionalities of tax collector is related to real estate and personal property, liens, closures, and working with the treasurer for that dual role of doing the lien processing in accordance with the state of Maine guidelines.
And maybe it was dog licensing that actually only, is that still in the clerks or was that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we used to do hunting and fishing and then got moved to the tax office, but yeah, we do dog.
The dog licenses, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on up there, right?
I got a question on the position. So you said salary grade I, so do we have an employee within that could actually, and with a promotion if they applied, or is this something?
I definitely think there's a skill set in-house, but I won't speak for those folks and whether they're interested or not, but I definitely, there's definitely folks in-house who, if interested, would definitely be eligible and.
Is that posted in-house first?
What's that?
Is that posted in-house first?
I've done both. I usually post internally first and then we'll go external. Sometimes I'll do it simultaneously. It's just kind of depends on the need but usually I'll post stuff in-house and then go out, but we don't have a formal policy on it. Just kind of.
I like that idea. I mean, if you post in-house, it just shows respect for the team, right? I really, really think that's a true leader right there, right? So that way, if you do have someone in-house that see you looking for that, and their position is actually lower, you're giving that person an opportunity to, do better, right? And have a better job. So that's great that you said in-house first. So that way, if anyone internal wants the job, it's up to them to apply. And if they qualify, they get it before you go out, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends really on what it is. If you're at, an internal position that's been vacant for a while, you're not really gonna get anyone in-house. So it really depends on what the position is, and, sometimes post it for a week or 2 weeks and then go out, but also depending on the urgency of needing to fill it, might do it simultaneously, but I always, default to in-house first if I can, so.
Anything else?
Good.
Read it?
I guess you could vote on letting me add the position to the salary and wage scale.
Ready for what? Does it make a motion? Did we make a, we did discussion. We're good. Sorry. Get late.
Right, Council Moore,
Aye.
Council Robichaud,
Yes.
Council Fellows,
Yes.
Council Keller,
Yes.
Rochelle,
Yes.
Council Lunt.
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, order passed 6-0.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Next item.
Appointments, none, Council Communications.
I have one, if I may.
Yes.
On the theory of 2 registered cars, unregistered cars being junkyard or salvage yard stuff, I think it would come this spring, we're gonna need to actually start paying attention a little bit more, coming to our gateway from Austin. Within a few hundred feet, there's already a couple places that are actually growing by the day, it seems. 30, 40 cars that were cleaned out at one point in time, and then right back there with, I can't even imagine, and I don't think that any of them registered, so I don't think it's even a licensed business right now. It's a junkyard right now, basically, and I don't know the logistics of it, but another couple hundred feet down the road is another one that's actually the town's been struggling with for quite a while. So I guess it's one of those things where as we start doing these, I think we need to, especially our 196 corridor where it's very visible and open. I think not gateways, we really need to pay attention to that. So.
Yeah, and if you have problem properties, feel free to just make me aware of it, because I'm not always driving around town and, code enforcing.
We have this awesome police force.
I can pick you up. Thank you for riding.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We have an awesome police force that I'm sure would be more than happy to actually,
I know quite a few of them.
To Fern's point, I know that there are some local neighborhoods that probably could use the same scrutiny.
Exactly. Anything else? Next item.
Audience participation and response for new items. This time, those in the audience who wish to speak may approach the left turn to address items or issues that are not on the agenda. Please use the microphone and state your name for the record.
Sir, now's your time.
I think I'll work with the process. I will come up with written recommendations, work with the finance committee. So for now,
Perfect.
9:20.
Perfect.
We'll call it.
Thank you. Next item.
Executive session, none. Order 2023-51 to adjourn.
Oh, I think
I'm
we
gonna have
do
an
have-
objective.
we're
We
doing
do
that.
have the executive session.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, we're supposed to be on the agenda for first on that.
Yeah, I do,
Oh.
because I thought we covered last week, and then you brought to my attention that it's something else. That's yours, so I may have gotten.
Okay.
So, personnel.
So we do.
Yeah. that what you said?
Another reading.
I think that's the eject the audience section.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is telling you to go home and be in a smarter place than here. How's that? You too. Thank you. Appreciate you coming out. Take care.
Glenn, is this where I have to go do another connection or something?
Do we need to vote to go into executive session?
Yeah, I make a motion. Well, she needs to actually have the order first, right? You're gonna give us an order?
Order, 2023 51A
Go
to
into,
go into executive session for personnel matters.
Just made that up.
make a motion that we go to executive session for personnel matters.
Second.
Roll call, Counselor Moore,
Aye.
Counselor Lund,
Yes.
Counselor, sorry. Robichaud,
Yes.
Counselor Fellows,
Yes.
Thank you.
Counselor
Yes.
Keller,
You good?
and Counselor Shell.
Yes.
Okay, 6 yeas, 0 nays, order pass 6-0.